Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Nevada Youth Legislature to order. Thank you for being here and welcome to this meeting of the Nevada Youth Legislature. Before we get started, I would like to ask the Secretary to please call roll.
Youth Legislator Bentham.
Here.
Youth Legislator Butnagar. Youth Legislator Boulware. Youth Legislator Craver.
Here.
Youth Legislator Greenstein.
Here.
Youth Legislator Keene.
He is not here at this time.
Thank you. Youth Legislator Kington.
Present.
Youth Legislator Krieger. Youth Legislator Laura.
Present.
Youth Legislator Makababa.
Present.
Youth Legislator Miller.
Absent, excused.
Youth Legislator Moss.
Here.
Youth Legislator Price.
Absent, excused.
Youth Legislator Raugust.
Present.
Youth Legislator Sutton. Youth Legislator Thornton.
Present.
Youth Legislator Thurgood.
Present.
Youth Legislator Walker.
Here.
Youth Legislator Wong.
Absent, excused.
Vice Chair Lyle.
Absent, excused.
Chair Dimison.
Present.
Thank you.
We did not hear responses from Youth Legislator Sutton or Youth Legislator Thornton.
Here. Youth Legislator Sutton is not here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Synan. Now, I'd like to cover some housekeeping reminders for the youth legislators and anyone providing testimony today. Please remember to turn the microphone on and identify yourself for the record each time you speak, and turn the microphone off when you're done speaking. I would also like to ask everyone to please turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and uploaded to the legislative website. Please keep that in mind as you deliver your testimony and ask questions of the presenters. For members of the public attending in person, please sign in at the table near the entrance at each location. Please sign in even if you do not plan to provide public comment. Finally, all materials received prior to the meeting have been uploaded to the NYL's meeting page, and I believe there should also be a copy in everyone's binder. Moving on to agenda item 2, public comment. We're going to be providing, or we'll be hearing public comment from the audience at this time. Public comment may be provided in several different ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. At this time, if anyone would like to provide public comment, please remember to identify yourself for the record. To ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, I would like to ask anyone speaking during public comment to keep their comments to no more than 3 minutes and try to avoid repeating comments that have been made by a previous speaker. Remember that there will be another period for public comment at the end of this meeting. Is there anyone wishing to testify in Las Vegas at this time? All right, seeing that there are no members of the public wishing to speak at this time in Las Vegas, is there anyone wishing to testify in Carson City?
Yes. For the record, Olivia Aschenbach, Aschenbach. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Olivia Aschenbach, and I am a senior at Carson High School. I'm a native Nevadan, and I plan to attend the University of Nevada, Reno in the fall with hopes of attending medical school. Currently, I am the president of the Carson chapter of HOSA Future Health Professionals, and I'm on the sports medicine track. This past year, I've had the opportunity to work with Youth Legislator Thornton and our school's athletic trainer, Adam Hunsaker, in a series of preventative concussion testing for our varsity football team. Much of the testing was baseline. However, we did have a few opportunities to test athletes who had suffered blunt force trauma resulting in concussion. One player in particular serves as a reminder of how impactful BDR-17 will be in Nevada high schools and beyond. This athlete, a sophomore at CHS, was tested 3 days post-concussion, which was extremely evident. The first test performed was a vestibular ocular motor screening, or VOMS. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, the athlete began the test reporting a level 7 headache, level 6 dizziness, level 4 nausea, and level 5 fogginess. A series of eye movement tests were performed, after which the same screening questions were asked. After the test, the athlete reported level 9 headache, dizziness, and nausea, and level 8 fogginess. The athlete was visibly ill, close to vomiting. As someone who is squeamish around vomit, this was something that stuck with me. This athlete became physically ill with simple eye movement. I could not imagine how difficult it was to complete schoolwork, such as reading a book or algebra. The second test, tandem gait, similar to that testing for driving under the influence, did not show just how influential the brain injury was until 2 weeks later, when the athlete was tested again. The differences between the initial and secondary tests were astronomical. Overall, he was able to perform the walking task 3.11 seconds faster, the walking and counting down by sevens 8.26 seconds faster, and perhaps the most significant, walking and naming numbers as either odd or even, a jarring 13.15 seconds faster. This shows that the athlete's brain was significantly impacted during and after the injury, making it near impossible to function in an everyday classroom. With the current athletic concussion policies, athletes are prohibited from competing with a concussion, but there are little to no guidelines regarding learning with a concussion. I believe that BDR-17 will significantly improve the education process for all students who have suffered traumatic brain injuries, including but not limited to athletes. Along with its low fiscal impact, BDR-17 will help to provide concrete guidelines for the reintegration of students into schools and classrooms, as well as managing the mental and physical health and well-being of Nevada students. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak in Carson City?
No one is stepping
Seeing
forward, Chair.
that- Right, thank you. Seeing that there are no other members of the public wishing to speak in Carson City, BPS, is there anyone on the line who would wish to make public comment at this time?
Thank you, Chair. The public lines are open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you. Since no one is prepared to provide public, or no additional members of the public are prepared to provide public testimony, we will be moving on to the next portion of the meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the youth legislators for their participation at our last meeting on October 20th, 2022. Unfortunately, I was unable to make it, but I'm very happy and glad that we were able to have substantive discussion on pieces of legislation that we created. Today, we will discuss more in detail 2 proposed bill draft requests that were selected and advanced at that last meeting. We are fortunate to have several witnesses who will be providing testimony today regarding our 2 BDR proposals. We greatly appreciate these witnesses taking time out of their day to be here to help us understand both of the BDR proposals and determine which proposed bill draft request to select to present to the Nevada Legislature. Moving on to agenda item 4, approval of the minutes of the meeting on September 21, 2022. Each youth legislator has received a copy of the minutes from this meeting. I will accept a motion at this time to approve the minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Chair Dimison, this is Youth Legislator Dylan Moss. I move to approve the minutes from the September 21st meeting.
Youth Legislator Moss has made a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting held on September 21st, 2022. Is there a second to this motion?
I second the motion.
Youth Legislator Thurgood has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion or regarding the minutes? Seeing that no youth legislators wish to be recognized on this matter, we will take a vote on the motion now. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, please signify by saying yes.
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 Okay. Seeing that this motion carries unanimously, the minutes of the September 21st, 2022 meeting are approved. The next item on our agenda is the discussion of our two final proposed BDRs and the selection of one BDR for presentation to the 2023 legislature. Each youth legislator will have 15 minutes to present their measure, followed by 10 minutes for questions from their colleagues. For the next 35 minutes, we will hear witness testimony regarding that particular BDR proposal. The 35 minutes includes their presentations as well as their responses to youth legislators' questions. After that 35-minute period, the BDR proposal sponsor returns to the witness table to wrap up the entire presentation in 5 minutes. Throughout the process, I will signal when there is 1 minute left for the youth legislator presentations, the question and answer periods, and the 35-minute witness testimony periods, as well as the youth legislator wrap-ups. The first BDR proposal that we will be discussing today is BDR proposal number 4. I will read the text of the BDR proposal for the record. This bill would create a pathway for children in the juvenile justice system to attend community college. This BDR proposal was proposed by Youth Legislator Craver, and she will now present it.
Good afternoon to all. I would like to welcome my fellow youth legislators, Mrs. Ashdown, Senator Wiener, and all other dignitaries in attendance to witness the two bills being presented today. I thank you all for your time and consideration today during my allotted time. Our journey on deciding the NYL BDR proposal ends today. 19 youth legislators were tasked to come up with original bill ideas. After the initial presentation, it was narrowed down to 7. All of which touched on a multitude of original ideas. I have been so impressed with some of the ideas that have been presented throughout this process. And to name a few, implementing free phone calls to children of incarcerated people, extending the material of health classes to high school children, extending start times for middle and high schoolers, and enforcing more school psychologists and counselors throughout the state. All of these BDR proposals brought up so many issues facing the Nevada youth, and I'm so thankful to be aware of them because of my fellow youth legislators and their passion for helping these various groups of children around our state, and it is such a shame that we cannot send more than one to the legislator. BDR 4 is a bill that would help save the lives of incarcerated Nevada youth by implementing a system that would give them a direct pathway from the youth centers around our state to community colleges linked in our areas. The end goal of this bill is to prevent these incarcerated youths from entering our prison systems later in life. Let me pose a question for my listeners. How many times have you personally seen someone in a classroom or hallway daily, and suddenly they make a negative choice in life and they're gone? How long after do you think about them? You hear one or two things about what they did and the path they chose, and so soon after, we forget about them. We have been trained to ignore the elephant in the room. We have been trained to ignore the negative things in life. We have been trained to ignore the less fortunate. Everybody does this. Personally, I think it is time to change that narrative. In my opinion, I think we need to make a difference and not help the issue so frequently addressed in news and media, and instead turn our focus onto the people who deserve it. I need everybody in attendance to help me with these individuals that disappear into our background that we don't give a second thought about, and to bring attention to these youths in a way that would benefit them in the most positive way. This bill would accomplish that and so much more. Your vote matters, and it specifically matters to me and these youths that you have the potential to help. Help me help them and turn this bill into a reality that would better the world of these youths. This bill is critical in helping these underrepresented youths, and it would help them in the most substantial way by not focusing on the immediate now, but attempting to rehabilitate and help for the future. We can help to save the 40% of incarcerated juveniles that end up in state prisons so soon after becoming legal adults. For a majority of prisoners in the United States, a whopping 59% have less or equal to a high school degree. Enacting this bill into Nevada law would allow for there to be better opportunities for these youths to have a path for their lives. This study shows that education is so important for these individuals, and starting fresh out of a juvenile detention center would be beneficial in the way that it would decrease the amount of people who end up in state or federal prison. There are 3 main detention centers across Nevada that this would include: Summit View Youth Center, located in Las Vegas, Caliente Youth Center, located in Caliente, and the Nevada Youth Training Center, located in Elko. These centers would be linked to CSN, WNC, and Truckee CC, respectively. The premise of this program is so simple: to send deserving kids that are in juvenile detention centers to the community college directly linked to their location. These kids would have to follow certain guidelines to be able to fully qualify for this program, and the guidelines are listed as follows. A, 12 hours of optional and extra community service before the beginning of the program and every additional semester after entering. B, to pass high school courses that are offered to you throughout your time in being in these youth centers. C, to pass the GED. The GED is divided into 4 specific tests that prepare you for life and college/community college after. The total cost of everything includes the following: the counselor that would be provided to each youth center in an effort to help the incarcerated youth apply and get into community college, as well as review the service hours being done and the cost of the GED for every juvenile in these detention centers. The cost estimate is $500,000, with $85,000 going to each center per year, and the fund being replenished every 2 years. To note, this counselor would also help the students that are applying to these colleges apply for the Nevada Promise Scholarship, a scholarship that would, upon the completion of high school courses and passing the GED and completing the mandatory community service hours, would lead to 3 fully paid years of community colleges in the state. Ultimately, this bill would allow these youths to attend community colleges, have a better and brighter career path, and thus help them from making wrong choices again. To emphasize how important this bill could be, let me crunch the numbers. This bill will take $500,000 to create every 2 years. This money will make itself back in our state in less than 1. The cost of a single prisoner per year in the state of Nevada is $33,000, and providing these children a path directly out of these youth centers and not onto the streets, not committing crimes, would save that $33,000 for every youth that we help. That would require, if you do the math, only 16. I estimate that and so much more, meaning that ultimately this bill will save money for Nevada taxpayers. This bill is aimed to go to the ones in these centers that deserve it, and I wholeheartedly believe that when it is voted through our group and into Nevada law, it would be the more advantageous VDR in the way that it would redirect potential offenders from jail in the future and would set so many on the correct pathway. I wholeheartedly support this bill, and I think it would be the most beneficial opportunity the incarcerated youth of our state could potentially have. There are so many individuals in this country that feel that helping incarcerated youths and pushing for education and a better pathway for them is critical to their futures. And despite them not making it today, I've been in contact with a few people who push for this issue around our country. In an interview with Clint Smith, a famous poet and advocate for incarcerated juvenile education, he claimed, quote, "One of the most important things we can do for the incarcerated juveniles is to set them on better pathways, whether that be setting them on a direct path or educating them within these systems." On top of Clint Smith, NFL player and Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee is Jalen Phillips, who thinks that the best thing we can do for these members of our country is to, quote, "give them opportunities to grow as individuals and become more upstanding members of our society." Both of these men, while extremely influential, are not reaching the entire population of the country, and passing my BDR will put more emphasis on the issues that they are facing and help them and other people who are trying to accomplish similar goals. Nothing but positive impacts will take place from this bill, and it is something that no one in our state is even attempting to implement. On another note, I'm so thankful to have Mrs. Alvarez, Brandon, and Bridget Duffy here to speak on behalf of BDR4. Their expertise and knowledge is so appreciated, and I urge you to fully listen to everything they say about the benefits of this bill. Everybody deserves a chance to grow as humans and as people, and I know this bill will allow that to happen to one of the more underrepresented groups of our state. Please take your time and consideration today and vote on BDR4, as it is critical to the futures of these youths. You and I can make a difference starting today, and it is the best opportunity that they have. I am now open to questions from the floor. Thank you.
All youth legislators with questions at this time for Youth Legislator Craver, please raise your placard or just raise your hand.
Chair Dimison, we were instructed in the north to let you know that we had questions. Instead of raising our placard, to signify we have a question by voice. So I'll be the first from the north to say that I, Youth Legislator Moss, have a question for Youth Legislator Craver.
This is Youth Legislator.
Noted. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. This is
no,
Youth
continue.
Legislator Krieger speaking, and I also have a question.
And Youth Legislator Greenstein, I also have a question as well.
Okay. So just to confirm, I have Youth Legislator Rogest, Walker, Makababad from the south, and then Moss, Krieger, and Greenstein from the north. Okay. Youth Legislator Rogest, you may begin.
Youth Legislator Rogest for the record. Youth Legislator Craver, has this proposal been implemented in other states?
Yes. So one of my speakers here today, two of them actually, is with the Department of Assemblyman McCarty in California, who passed a similar BDR. Other than that, I don't think any other laws have been made in any other states, and none are identical to mine. Thank you for your question.
And then, am I able to ask another one?
If it's a brief follow-up, okay,
Okay.
No follow-ups. Youth Legislator Walker.
Youth Legislator Walker for the record. So my question is, it's like, what sort of criteria do juveniles have to meet before they can participate in the program?
So the three criteria that I listed in the speech are the main criteria, and then outside of that, I just don't want any threatening criminals, if that makes sense. Other than that, that's the criteria that you have to meet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Youth Legislator Makababad.
Youth Legislator Makababad for the record. And if I'm understanding correctly, in your plan, do you believe that 12 hours of community service is enough for the juveniles, or should there be an increased amount?
I'm very willing to go back and forth on the amount of hours of community service that are required, but I think 12 per semester, which would equal 24 for the year, is a good amount as a base to start with, because they are transferring from a youth center to taking college classes, which can be a big jump. And so in some instances, 12 would probably be enough. But if the youth legislator feels as though there should be more, we can add more.
And then going to the north, Youth Legislator Moss.
Youth Legislator Dylan Moss for the record. Thank you for your presentation, Youth Legislator Craver. My question is that, you know, we've had an election last week, and the balance of power has shifted a little bit. And I want to know, do you realistically think that Governor-elect Lombardo would sign a BDR like this? Thank you.
I think that if enough of the, I hate to go political, but since he is Republican, I think that if enough of the Republican state senators that we have vote forward, which mine personally is, so I like to think mine would vote mine forward. I think that if enough of our Republican state senators come together and vote this forward, I don't think he would not sign it into law, if that answers your question.
Youth Legislator Krieger.
Hello, this is Youth Legislator Krieger speaking. Through your speech, it's very clear that you're committed to Nevada youth, but I'm still a little bit concerned about the financial aspect of this bill. Would it be possible to have some clarification about where specifically funding will come from?
Yeah, sorry I didn't make that clear in my speech. It would come out of, I reviewed the Nevada budget from the 2019 to 2021 and the 2021, like how much we spent out of that budget. And in my inspection, the Legislative Council department of our budget had about $8 million left over at the end of the term from the previous year, and it's estimated to be around the same. So we would get it out of that. Thank you for your question.
Youth Legislator Greenstein.
Youth Legislator Greenstein for the record. Just to follow up on Youth Legislator Makababad's question, I'm curious about what specifically are the community service opportunities in Nevada for incarcerated youth to be able to qualify for this program.
Yeah, so there are a lot of options, such as volunteering at soup kitchens, volunteering at animal shelters, volunteering to pick up garbage on the streets, volunteering to go talk to other incarcerated youths to try to lead them down better paths, volunteering to go talk to middle schoolers to lead them down better paths. There are a lot of options, and that's one of the jobs of the counselors that I'm suggesting that we add to each youth center. She or he or they would be in charge of that, if that makes sense. Thank you for your question.
And then Youth Legislator Craver, I have a question regarding your BDR proposal as well. Chair Demison, for the record. There's a lot of discussion about the economic implication of this piece of legislation. You mentioned the cost per prisoner, but sort of my question is in the long term, when these juvenile offenders get out of college, they have their degree and they're having a job, is there a long-term implication in sort of these people contributing back to their economy?
Yeah, so the basic premise and the basic goal of this BDR is to make it so that these incarcerated juveniles just have the opportunity to go to these colleges and get these degrees and become working members of our society instead of ending up on the streets and ending up in group activities that are quite illegal and just things like that, to avoid them from re-entering our prison systems.
Thank you. We do have around 8 minutes left or 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes. We have around 10 minutes. Are we? Right. We're at that mark? Okay. Youth Legislator Craver will now be moving on to your witness testimony portion. If you would like to call your witnesses to the stand.
Yeah, you can come to the stand.
Are your other ones here?
They're on Zoom. So 2 of my witnesses are on Zoom, Maria Alvarez and then Brandon Fellows. They're on Zoom.
Yes, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to outline just a few housekeeping things. So, witnesses, just before testifying, please be sure to state and spell your name for the record, whom you are representing today, and then you may begin your testimony when ready.
Youth Legislator Craver. Maria Alvarez, if you could start us off, please.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're clear.
Perfect. My name is Maria Alvarez. Do you want me to spell it?
Yes, please.
It's Mariaalvarez. And I am the Chief of Staff for California State Assembly Member Kevin McCarty. He was the author of Assembly Bill 417 that Emily has been speaking of. And that was the Rising Scholars Network bill that we did. We introduced in 2020. And that bill created the Rising Scholars Network. It was a bill that established a system for formerly incarcerated students at the community college level to access resources on community college campuses, support systems, tutoring, counseling, academic advising, the ability to get peer counseling, in addition to other food service programs, different types of, like I said, support services on their campuses across the community college system. So previously, there were college campuses that were doing this, but there was no larger system across the community college network that was doing this. And so what we did was we codified it and put money into the larger community college system to be able to have it codified, and put money into the chancellor's office statewide. So the money goes to the chancellor's office at the state level and gets trickled down to all of the campuses that actually want to have a program on their actual campus, and then have a place on their campus for students to coalesce and get those services. And that's the bill that was passed. We also put money in the budget for it, and it's been incredibly successful. That's it. Any questions?
Any youth legislators with questions for Ms. Alvarez, please raise your placard if you're in the South, or make yourself verbally known if you're zooming in from the North.
I have a question, Chair Dimison. Youth Legislator Greenstein?
This is Youth Legislator Krieger, and I also have a question.
Okay. All right. So I have Greenstein, Krieger, Lara, and Rogers from the South and the North. But since, this is a very important legislative meeting, I'd like to call upon my fellow youth legislators who haven't asked a question yet to ask a question, just so we can include every perspective. So if any of those youth legislators at this time would like to ask a question, please make yourself known. Okay. Youth Legislator Lara, you may proceed.
Youth Legislator Lara, for the record. I just wanted to ask more clearly about, you mentioned that you put money into this from, I want to know where it came from. I'm guessing hopefully the state. And also, how much was it? How much budget did you guys have?
Yeah, so at the time, we knew that there were about 40 colleges that were already providing services for formerly incarcerated students. And so we had a sense of how much money was already needed. My boss, the assembly member, who is chair of the budget subcommittee that oversees K-12 and higher education, was able to really look at the state budget and figure out how much money the chancellor's office, the community colleges would need. And at the time, it's a little bit more than $5 million. There are about 110 community colleges across the state of California. And so, like I said, we knew at the time there were about 40 that were already providing programs at different levels. And so that first year we put in 5 million, and then the following year we put in another 5 million. So it's a $10 million program currently. But there at
Youth
this time,
Legislator.
there are about 50 campuses that provide services, including having a physical site on their campus for students to go to access these services.
Youth Legislator Greenstein.
Youth Legislator Greenstein, for the record. I was wondering if you have any statistics about how widely these programs have been adopted among the formerly incarcerated youth in California.
Yeah, that actually might be a better question for Brandon. I know that these programs are extremely well utilized. Like I said, different campuses have them at different levels. Some offer some services, some offer a lot more. And since we standardized it across, the system, more campuses are really, putting it onto their campuses. But it is something that more campuses are really realizing how important it is. Again, I'm going to let Brandon really kind of speak to that a little bit more, because I think as somebody who's been in the program, I think he really can address that a little bit better. I will say that all 3 public university systems have some type of formerly incarcerated program on their campuses. So the CSUs have Project Rebound for their formerly incarcerated students, and then the UCs have their Underground Scholars program. So I think each system recognizes the importance of having a program for formerly incarcerated students.
Youth Legislator Krieger.
Youth Legislator Krieger, for the record, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your background is in California legislature, so I wanted to ask if you had any concerns about how this bill might be implemented in Nevada and how we might adjust to those, especially considering the budgeting differences that you brought up.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Nevada's public university system. I think that, again, you would need to really, adjust that accordingly for the university system there, and look at both the budgets of the state, the budgets of your public university system there, and what the needs are for your justice involved students are. at that level.
Youth Legislator August.
August, for the record, are you confident that a similar bill could pass the partisan gridlock in the Nevada Senate? Because I understand that this was passed in California, which, from what I also understand, is heavily Democrat.
I'm not confident about that, of course not. But I think that we're talking about providing an educational pathway for all students. I think you've got, again, and I think this is a better question for Brandon, but you've got folks who are looking to better their lives academically, economically, for themselves and their families, and are looking for a pathway to do that, to better their lives, to become more productive citizens, and don't want to return to a previous life. Why would anyone not want to help that? Why would anyone vote against that? It's a pathway. And I agree with Emily. Ultimately, it would save the state money.
Are there any other youth legislators with questions at this time? Right. This witness is excused. Youth Legislator Craver, you may call your next witness.
Hi, Youth Legislator Craver. For the record, I'd like to call in Brandon Fellows. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for having me today. My name is Brandon Fellows. That's Brandon Fellows. I am former co-founding student of Reemerging Scholars at Sacramento City College, and I am currently an Underground Scholars Initiative at UC Berkeley, California. See, after 10 years of incarceration as a juvenile and another 10 years unable to adjust to society, program after program, nothing seemed to help my rehabilitation until I was open to the opportunity of an educational educational lifestyle. Rather than being surrounded by, the positive impact of education as a juvenile, I was forced into an environment that was a negative influence. And it took me about 20 years to find something that was actually going to bring me back to being a productive member of society. And I had to reevaluate my life and look back and see where was the last time that I had felt positive and productive growth. And that was when I was in grade school, when I was actually pursuing an education. And I was open with the opportunity to be able to enroll in community college. From there, I saw that there was a shortness of help for formerly incarcerated students, and I wanted to help that grow. And that's where the Reemerging Scholars idea came from. I was introduced to a couple professors, and we had the ability to help that program grow and benefit a lot of people coming home from prison. So after that, I was granted a full scholarship at UC Berkeley. And there I work as a secretary for Underground Scholars Initiative. Honestly, I have to say, like, my educational journey has become like my rehabilitation and reentry into society. As a senior, I'm about to graduate and I plan on going to grad school. It's been a hard journey as being a father of three, and not having that connection to society for so long. I also spent another 10 years addicted and homeless, unable to find my reason and my place in life. And programs like Reemerging Scholars is what has given me that opportunity. And as Rising Scholars has grown, I've seen a lot of positive effects that are coming from juvenile incarceration as well. I get to work inside a juvenile incarceration facility in Oakland, California, and there I get to introduce the opportunity of a college education to students that are facing time. So yeah, if that's really all I got. If you have any questions, just, I hope I can answer them for you.
Thank you. Any youth legislators with questions at this time, please verbally make yourself verbally known or raise your placard.
This is Youth Legislator Krieger. I do have a question.
Before proceeding on with questions, I'd like to note that youth legislators Bentham, Boulware, Keene, Kington, Thornton, and Thurgood have not asked questions yet. The chair would like to encourage participation in all testimony for the purposes of this hearing, so please be sure to ask questions. Youth Legislator Krieger, you may proceed.
Is it possible to ask a follow-up question after my preliminary question? Because I was wondering if it would be possible to have some clarification about whether you went through this program while incarcerated or after.
Unfortunately, you're just limited to one question.
Got it. Okay. Then I think I'll rephrase my question to ask, if you went through this program only after incarceration, how do you think it can be applied as intended with this bill proposal to Nevada youth who are currently in the justice system?
See, that was the problem. When I was a juvenile and coming home from incarceration, there was no opportunity for me to even consider a college education. And I believe that's why it took me so many years to find a way to rehabilitate myself or to re-enter into society. And I feel if those programs are implemented into the juvenile system now, it would make a difference in a lot of future outcomes for incarcerated juveniles.
I have a question, Mr. Fellows. Chair Dimison, for the record. I think a lot of the youth legislators here are hungry for some statistics on the effectiveness of these kinds of programs. Are you aware of any sort of statistics that show the effectiveness of programs like these? And if so, could you please state them?
I don't on hand. All I can say is from personal experience. I mean, we have an organization at Berkeley. We're all formally incarcerated. There's about 50 of us. The organization that we had at Re-Emerging Scholars, we had about 25 to 30 students at that time, which I'm not affiliated with as much anymore. But I mean, I'm a success story alone. So, I mean, it's how you look at it, I believe.
I can provide some statistics if that's helpful.
We will address that during your testimony. I'm not sure, or could you recognize yourself, please?
Yep, this is Maria Alvarez.
Okay. I think so. First, since there are no other youth legislators that have any questions regarding Mr. Fellows' testimony, we'll be moving on to the next witness that Youth Legislator Craver has, and then we'll see if there's remaining time to address that.
Okay,
so
no worries.
Your excuse, Mr. Fellows. Thank you.
Youth Legislator Craver, for the record, I'd like to introduce Bridget Duffy, who is sitting right next to me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennison and members of the Youth Legislature. I am Bridget Duffy, BRIGID DUFFY. I'm the Assistant District Attorney in Clark County over the Juvenile Division. I oversee 30 district attorneys who handle cases of children that are abused and neglected and in the foster care system, as well as 9 district attorneys who handle cases of children who commit delinquent acts, otherwise known as crimes, and end up in the juvenile justice system. I have been doing that job for about 12 years now, but I've been involved in the juvenile system and in child abuse and neglect for 22 years of my career here in Nevada. I'm going to start by talking about this bill as a part of a continuum of our community's efforts to destroy the school to prison pipeline, but kind of in the reverse. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that term, where school exclusionary practices are fast-tracked, either through suspension or expulsion of kids into the juvenile justice system. And oftentimes when they are in the juvenile justice system with a goal of rehabilitation, we have children who really do hang on to the efforts that are made around them by social workers and probation and parole officers, counselors, and they are activity that they've had. And we shouldn't just abandon children who have been through our system and forget about them as they move into the future. So over the past few years, there's been several pieces of legislation to address children that are in foster care and ensuring that they have a free education in the state of Nevada. So any child in foster care is entitled to a free education, community college, university, but we often forget about our children that are not foster children, that are just in the juvenile justice system, and the efforts that we could make for them to prevent them from going to prison. I'm sure many of you know that there are statistics about children that are in foster care and how they become our prisoners and they become our adult criminals. And that offering of that extended education into the colleges and universities is an effort to prevent them from entering those systems. But along the way, we've forgotten about our kids who commit these delinquent acts. And maybe because they're not the snuggly, cute, abused and neglected children that we want to put our arms around and protect, because these kids have somehow impacted our community safety. But if they go through the rehabilitation efforts, they are entitled to as much of a future of success in building up our community safety as anybody else. And I think this bill would be a great pathway for that. I want to answer a couple questions that came up. Community service hours. While kids are incarcerated in our facilities, they can do community service within those facilities. As a prosecutor, we accept all kinds of community service. Things as doing the laundry, doing the dishes, cleaning up around the campus of the facilities. So if they're going to be participating in community college while inside a facility, there are plenty of ways inside the facility to get community service. With the impact of COVID-19, there have been some limitations on children in the community getting community service hours in different locations. And so we as prosecutors have been very lenient on how they do it. Sometimes if a child just, helps out after school, the school is their community. So that's, if that's what's important to them, we ask the child, what is your community? Okay, go help it. Whether it's your church, your school, your home. And so we've had to be a little bit lenient as far as where you go and get those hours. Another thing I think is important is juvenile jurisdiction is until age 21. So I think a lot of people don't know that. So if you committed a delinquent act at the age of 16 or 17, we have jurisdiction in the juvenile system until you are 21 years of age. So sometimes we have delayed prosecution where a child may commit a delinquent act, say a burglary at the age of 15, and we don't apprehend them and prosecute them until they're 18. They would still go to a youth facility. And we've had situations where juveniles have been 18 and going into Summit View, which is our facility here in Las Vegas, and they have already finished school. They have their high school diploma. And so they're sitting there while other kids are going to school, and we had to be inventive of how to get them college credits while in that facility, because most of the kids are in school all day long, and now I have a child sitting there doing his rehabilitative services for an event that he did when he was 15, and he's now 18 when we prosecuted him. So I think it's important to understand that our jurisdiction doesn't end at 18 if the crime was committed when they were still a juvenile. I also want to point out, to the point of our shift in power in this state, I've been involved in the legislative session for a really long time. It's one of my favorite things to do in my job. And to Youth Legislator Moss's question about our new governor, congratulations, Governor Lombardo. He was the sheriff of our police department down here, and he was very involved in juvenile reform efforts. He helped create the harbors. He helps all of our community-oriented policing. So I think, as our sponsor said, Youth Legislator Craver, that if we bring it in, it's very difficult for our state legislators to look at children the same way they do adults. And I think you could get that, nonpartisan support and get everybody in together on a bill like this, because we really giving a child an education or a young adult an education creates more community safety and awareness. And I think after all of these years and all the testimony I've done on juvenile justice bills and foster care bills, that is one thing everybody understands, that education is the key to creating our community to be safe. And I don't think it'll be as controversial as you might think it would be because of that. And with that, I think I'll just answer questions because I know we're running out of time.
Any youth legislators with questions, please make yourself verbally known or raise your placard.
Youth Legislator Krieger for the record.
Chair Dimmoth, I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Youth Legislator Kington, Chair Dimmoth, I have a question.
Noted. All right. So from the south, I have Walker and Bentham, and then from the north, I have Kington and Krieger. We will go to Youth Legislator Kington.
So you said that you had to be inventive in order to get 18-year-olds college credit within your institutions. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, have you been able to get people who are already 18 years old in those institutions, been able to get them college credits?
Yes, Bridget Duffy for the record, yes. In the couple cases that we've had where we've had adults, quote unquote, 18 plus year olds in juvenile systems, we were able to connect with community colleges for credits. And in some cases, we also have trade schools, like at Caliente, we have the opportunity to have them in some culinary programs and things like that. So we were able to get them into something else.
Youth Legislator Bentham.
Thank you. With your knowledge and personal experience in Nevada's juvenile system, do you see this bill actually working as intended and being effective?
Bridget Duffy for the record. I do. In fact, for me, I think it's a great first step. I think if we can get it passed and we can get it through the system and involved within our current 3 communities, which by the way, we only have about 100 kids currently. So don't equate us to California. We're nowhere close, thank goodness. But we could then look at other things because we have 2 youth camps here in the state, China Springs and Spring Mountain youth camps. And I think this would benefit both of them because we have children that are there. We have about 100 kids in between the 2 facilities there. And we also have children that are certified to the adult system that are in Lovelock Prison. So you have 15 to 17-year-olds in Lovelock Prison who are waiting, and they will be out in a few years, and I think this would benefit them with a step up. So I'd like to see it get through on this scale, and I think it would benefit. And it'd be a portion of our juvenile population that's been forgotten, that has done everything they can to rehabilitate, and it would be that support afterwards.
Youth Legislator Walker.
Youth Legislator Walker for the record. So just for some clarification, does Nevada's current juvenile system offer any educational resources to currently incarcerated youth? If so, what are those resources we have right now?
So Bridget Duffy for the record. So every institution offers local school district support. So within Summit View, within our local juvenile detention facility in Clark, and in Spring Mountain Youth Camp, we have the Clark County School District. Out in Caliente, it's the Lincoln County School District, I believe. And then up at the Nevada Youth Training Center, it's the local Elko County School District. So they have high school in all of the facilities. But, I mean, most of you are probably aware of the credit programs where you can do dual credits for CSN here in Clark County. I'm sorry, I'm not that familiar with the rest of the state for that issue, but dual credit programs. And then I also have that population of kids that have already have their GEDs or high school diplomas that are entering into these facilities.
Youth Legislator Krieger.
This is Youth Legislator Krieger speaking, and earlier you mentioned that this program would focus on juveniles who have impacted community safety, which contradicted what Youth Legislator Craver said earlier about not including dangerous youth in these programs. So how would we decide criteria for who is included?
Bridget Duffy for the record. Well, I think ultimately you as the policymakers would decide what those criteria would be. If I had my way, working with thousands of children a year that enter into the juvenile justice system in Clark County, I think it would be based upon the fact that they have completed the rehabilitation programs that we're asking them to complete, regardless of whatever offense that they committed. So, we have kids who commit small petty larcenies or small batteries, which is, a punch, that could be way more dangerous to our community than somebody who's, pushed a kid off a bike and took it one time. It's really hard to say which child is going to continue to impact community safety. All we can do is wrap a child with the services that we have and hope that they will grab onto those hands that we're holding out and continue to want to build that life. But one thing I see is when a kid hits 18, their parents sometimes get fed up with them. Your parents sometimes probably get fed up with you too, right? And so our kids are left out in the cold. And we end our services, they have nothing. But if you're a child who went through the foster care system without supportive parents, you are not left out in the cold. You still have a safety net in financial assistance, in college and university assistance. So we have all of that. But if you're a kid who committed a mistake or a crime, and you've done everything the community has asked you to do to get on the right path, and then your parents turn your back on you when you're 18 because they're done with you, there's no safety net, which is why you're ending up going and committing more crimes and survivals. So I think this would support that. So my criteria would be any child who is taking the opportunity to rehabilitate, to prove that they want to be a productive member of our community, and this would support them and improve our community safety.
Seeing that no other youth legislators have any questions at this time, Ms. Duffy.
Chair Dimison, I do have one more question if there's any time. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, Youth Legislator Thornton for the record.
Unfortunately, there was an opportunity. Yeah, we only have 2 minutes left, and there was an opportunity for recognition earlier. So, unfortunately, you won't be able to ask a question. Youth Legislator Craver, you may proceed with your witness.
Thank you, Chair.
Hi, Youth Legislator Craver for the record. I'd like to reintroduce Maria Alvarez to talk about statistics previously mentioned.
Hi there.
You're loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to pull up a couple of statistics. Basically, there was a study done by the RAND Corporation that found that inmates who participated in educational programs were 43% less likely to recidivate than those that did not participate in educational programs. And those were just kind of overall educational programs. Inmates who participated in college programs specifically had 51% lower odds of recidivating. So that number went up for college programs specifically. And then a 2019 study done by the Vera Institute of Justice in partnership with the Center on Poverty and Inequality at Georgetown Law found that California's correctional costs would decrease by $66.6 million a year with a greater investment in post-secondary educational programs. So those are some of the statistics I wanted to share with you all.
And with that, I believe we're at the end of the time elapsed for Youth Legislator Craver's witness testimony. So Youth Legislator Craver, you'll have 5 minutes to wrap up your presentation.
Hi again, guys. Webster defines cause as a reason for an action or condition, something that brings about an effect or result. Today, I have presented a cause, and with your vote, you can make it a result. I would like to say thank you. Thank you to my speakers for advocating for me. Thank you to the leaders of the NYL for giving me this opportunity to grow as a person and have this chance to make real change that I personally believe in. And above all, thank you to my fellow youth legislators here in Las Vegas and up in Carson City. Thank you for your consideration and attention. It means the world to me to have your potential vote for my BDR. And I highly encourage and am asking for your support. Help me help these highly underrepresented individuals of our state. They need us. They need us so they can go down a better road and make improvements on their character and the things they do. This bill is pivotal, and as you heard from my testimonies, it is critical to their futures. Mrs. Alvarez presented an amazing presentation, and you heard how important it was from Brandon Fellows and how much it changed his life personally. Brandon not only took this opportunity, but proved that this program works. This would carry over to Nevada and improve the lives of so many people. Bridget Duffy is on the front line of juvenile improvement, and as she said, this program would be so beneficial. In her statements, she gave no doubt about how important and critical this program would be. It would be a benefit, and I know that this state legislator would be supportive of this bill despite party lines. Every single one of you matters in this decision. So please do not vote on the people who are getting attention constantly and have laws written about them already. Help the ones who need it the most. They didn't have the same opportunities and support that every single one of us have every day from our parents and family members. We can make a real difference in every single one of these people's lives today and every day for the rest of their lives. I am so confident that we can pass this bill today, and I know the impacts that it would have. And I can only ask that every NYL member in attendance understands that impact too. This bill would grant the opportunity to create a better future for the lives of the youths of Nevada that didn't have the supportive home life that we all have. This bill shines a light on the pressing matters of the youth and what we can do to not only change the current youth centers around our state, but change the trajectory of their lives and change our prison systems for the better. I implore you to think about every side of this for me and the incarcerated youth of this state. We have support. They don't, and they continue to not. Help me change that. I have loved this opportunity. I will cherish it for the rest of my life, and I value every single member of the NYL. I know I want to remain in contact with every single one of you beyond this group for the rest of my life. Thank you for voting me this far. I appreciate having this opportunity to showcase my BDR to every single one of you multiple times. And again, I hope I emphasized its importance enough to gain your vote today. Thank you, all of you, for your time. I appreciate it more than I can put into words.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Craver. We will now begin the hearing on the second proposal, BDR number 17. I will read the text of the BDR proposal for the record of this meeting. Existing law requires the Nevada Interscholastic Activities Association and the Board of Trustees of each school district to adopt a policy concerning the prevention and treatment of injuries to the head, which may occur during a pupil's participation in sports, which includes, without limitation, provisions regarding when a pupil must be removed from the activity and may return to that activity. This bill would revise such provisions and additionally require the inclusion of provisions regarding the return of such a pupil to the classroom environment and any necessary educational supports for such a people, commonly known as Return to Learn policies. This BDR was submitted for consideration by Youth Legislator Thornton. When you are ready, please present your BDR proposal, Youth Legislator Thornton.
Youth Legislator Thornton for the record. Beside me is Dr. Nicholas Murray. He's the head of the Neuromechanics Laboratory at the University of Nevada and the Nevada Interscholastic Athletic Association representative. He will be helping me answer some questions after my testimony. I just wanted to introduce him. All right. I want to thank you all of the youth legislators here in Carson and in Las Vegas, for the opportunity to have made it this far in the bill selection process. And I want to thank everyone who will be giving me testimony in support of my bill, who is behind me today and who will be online. I could not have done it without the support that I've been able to have, which is support that a lot of people don't have yet because this bill isn't passed. This BDR will provide clear guidelines and procedures for managing a student's traumatic brain injury, which is a TBI, or their concussion. The bill will also assist school districts in addressing the learning, mental health, and physical needs of all students following a concussion or TBI, while promoting safety, healing, and academic success. BDR 17 amends NRS 385B 080, NRS 392 452, and NRS 455A 200, which specifies policies for a student athlete to return to play, RTP, by updating the RTP policies and adding statewide return to learn, RTL, policies. But with that said, you all know what my bill is about. We've been through this before, multiple times. You know my story, and I am so grateful to be able to share it with you, but today isn't about my story. Today isn't about what I want for my bill. Today is about the bill. It's about the countless other stories and the people behind those stories. It's about the people's lives that have been dramatically, irrevocably changed by a brain injury or 2 or 3 or more, and the people that are sadly not here with us today because they didn't have these accommodations that they needed. You've heard from me. Now I want you to hear from all the others that this bill will help, and imagine the future students, our friends, our peers, and our family that this bill will save. These people are from Nevada. They are for Nevada. I would like to turn your attention quickly to the documents I submitted for you all to peruse at your leisure in your folders. Current NRS statute for concussions that I will be amending, the CDC concussions in sports policies, BDR 17 PowerPoint presentation, and the BDR 17 proposal. Now I would like to turn my time over to Dr. Murray for some expert testimony on the NIAA.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Nicholas Murray, NICHOLESMURRAY. I am the director for the Neuromechanics Lab at the University of Nevada, Reno. I've been a concussion researcher, and I help to run our clinic on the campus there for about 5 years now. Been involved in research for about 15 years in different capacities across the nation and different states. I also help to manage and serve the NIAA through the Sports Medicine Committee Board. We recently met to revise the NIAA's policies for concussion management, which includes return to learn and return to play. And majority of the elements that were in our revised statutes for the NIAA were actually written and also drafted by Youth Legislator Thornton, which is excellent. She's outstanding in these efforts. And our goal is to provide clarity and safety for our youth who are playing in sports. It's critical for us to be able to return athletes back to the classroom before the field, and we haven't done that. And we have not done that very well as a united body of different states, and Nevada has no statutes on that right now, which causes some confusion and issues across the board.
Youth Legislator Thornton, for the record, I am now finished with my testimony. I'd like to move on to the question and answer section. Chair, thank you.
All youth legislators with questions at this time, please make yourself verbally known or raise your placard.
Chair Dimison, this is Youth Legislator Moss. For the record, I do have a question.
This is Youth Legislator Krieger, and I also have a question.
This is Dylan Key, and I have a question.
Okay. Just to confirm, I see from the north, Youth Legislator Moss and Krieger, and from the south, I see Youth Legislators Thurgood and Keene, Bentham and Rogest as well. Okay, we will be starting, or before we proceed with questions, I'd just like to make a note that after this question and answer period, the only youth legislator to not have asked a question will be Youth Legislator Boulware, just so that everyone participates in this discussion, and especially this very important activity. Please make sure that we're asking questions to include every perspective. We'll be starting with Youth Legislator Keene.
Youth Legislator Keene, for the record. Is there anything that these other states might have that we could use in Nevada in particular, maybe like headgear or something that could help?
Youth Legislator Thornton, for the record, thank you for that question. We already use types of headgear in sports, so I don't necessarily think that's what I want to address. I want to address more the first part of your question, where there are multiple states or all 50 states have passed return to play. It is possible to be able to look at those return to play plans and add on to what we already have in law so that it is a much stronger plan to be able to help the safety and the health and well-being of all students. For Return to Learn, there are 13 other states who have passed Return to Learn, so it is absolutely possible to be able to do the research. I've already done research. I've already written a 42-page research paper on all of the states and what they have already said concerning Return to Learn and Return to Play, so it is absolutely possible to be able to use some of their best practices in ours to make sure that Nevada is at the top of making sure that the health and well-being of all of our students, athletes or not, is pertinent.
This is Dr. Murray, for the record. Great question. One element to speak to specifically on headgear. There's no known equipment that prevents concussions. They happen all the time. They're usually unexpected blows to the head. Your body does not have enough time to brace for the impact. And as a result, your brain moves inside your skull. So it doesn't matter how much padding we add on. And on a very fun side note, our research facility has just finished examining the Guardian caps, which the NFL and quite a few teams actually implemented, and has a 0 to none effect. Actually, it increases some of the cervical spine injury risk. So that's a little fun fact. The other side of it is I've been involved with legislation and other elements across other states. Most of the states have these provisions already established, and most of them were established anywhere from 5 to 8 years ago. Unfortunately, Nevada has lagged behind in majority of our statutes to protect our youth in this way.
Youth Legislator Thurgood.
Hi, so you mentioned that you wanted to amend the 2 previously existing laws. Could you elaborate on what exactly from those you would like to amend?
Youth Legislator Thornton, for the record, thank you for that question. So there's actually 3 NRS statutes that will be amended. The first NRS statute is concerning the NIAA. The other 2 statutes, basically because the NIAA is part of the first statute, it just kind of trickles down to the other 2 statutes, and all 3 statutes say the same. They say that a student, if they seem to have a concussion on the field, so athletes only, right? It says that you need to pull them out of play. It says that you need to evaluate them and you don't let them back into play if they seem to have a concussion. And then the third part is that they need to get a note from a doctor or a medical practitioner of some kind to be able to return to playing sports. That is all that our NRS statutes say. I would like to add in a general plan for how to allow a student athlete to be able to go back to play. I would like to add in accommodations for student athletes to be able to have. I would also like to make sure to have conversations with the athletic trainers and Dr. Murray about other parts to add in for return to play. Concerning return to learn, since we do not have any of that, I would like to add in accommodations for students, all students and student athletes, to be able to acclimate back to school within the time period that they need. I would like to add informational courses for students and for parents, for more coaches and teachers, so that everybody understands and is on the same page as what a concussion is and how to help students and student athletes throughout that process back to school and back to play.
Youth Legislator Moss.
Thank you, Chair Dimison. Youth Legislator Moss, for the record. I just want to clarify, my question is kind of, it's got two parts to it. First part, this isn't just for my clarification, this is not just an athlete issue, correct? And then the second part is, how detrimental is it to our students and their health to not have return to learn or return to play policies implemented? Thank you.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Moss. I appreciate that question. So to answer your first question, that this isn't just about athletes, completely correct. This is about every single student who sustains a concussion from whiplash, from tripping on a rock in the street and falling back and hitting your head. If you are dealing with multiple siblings and one starts running off, you try to catch them, you trip and you fall. It's about if you get hit by a car, if you are actually playing sports like football or basketball. It concerns everyone, every single youth in our state, to make sure that every single youth in our state is able to have all of the equal protections afforded to them. And I will let Dr. Murray answer the second part of your question.
Dr. Murray, for the record, great question, Youth Legislator Moss. If you could imagine this, you ever seen molasses? Yeah, see how slow it moves? If you were to pour it out of a jar, how long it would take to get an actual thing of molasses out of a jar. That's your brain when you have a concussion. Everything is slowed down significantly. So if you have a big exam coming up, you get a biology test, you have a math test, let's just say you're in calculus, something very challenging. The ability to study for that exam is significantly impaired. And you can't sit and study for prolonged amount of times without making your symptoms provoked and worse. Symptom provocation delays recovery. And so we need to have plans of actions to get athletes back to the classroom and every individual who suffers a concussion in order for us to appropriately manage them. And these are on a case-by-case basis because concussions affect us all very differently. And so there needs to be some help and education and information provided not only to the teachers, to the math teacher who doesn't understand, well, you were fine yesterday, but now you're telling me you can't take this math exam. Well, are you just trying to get out of it? Okay, so there's certain elements we have to consider, but everything inside your body, your brain, everything's moving significantly slower. It impairs function, motor function, everything. It's pretty important.
Youth Legislator August.
Ragas, for the record. I'm reading that in your bill draft proposal, it says that there's no known fiscal impacts. My question is that for the implementation of education, reforms, and information, what would be the fiscal impacts? Because it must be some.
Thank you for that question, Youth Legislator Thornton. For the record, There is no fiscal impact. None at all. Zero. Because the education courses, all free. There are free courses on the CDC website. There are free courses on the NIA website. There are free courses on the National Federation of High School website. Putting this bill into law within the first year, I will not be using $500,000. I will be using zero. And every single one of those dollars that I will not be using will go to the 44,000 concussions that happen in this state every year for youth. It will be the youth, that's 6% of us youth. It will go towards them. Thank you.
Youth Legislator Craver.
I just had more of a curiosity question. You haven't mentioned how you got your concussion, so I was just wondering if you could just tell us, if it's like personal. No biggie, I was just curious.
Thank you for that question, Youth Legislator Thornton, for the record. I've told my story multiple times. I've answered that question multiple times at the last meetings, but as I said in the beginning, this meeting isn't about me. It's about all of the other people here to testify. It's about the letters that people have written that are in your folders. It's about the countless other students who need this bill. They need this bill so that they are able to go to elementary school, go to middle school, go to high school, and then finally be able to go to college. So thank you.
The question and answer time period has elapsed for Youth Legislator Thornton's presentation. We will now be moving on to Youth Legislator Thornton's witness testimony. So Youth Legislator Thornton, if you'd like to call your first witness to the stand.
Thank you, Chair. I have my first two witnesses.
Thank you, Youth
Please
Legislative Committee, for allowing me to speak today. My name is Sabrina Martin, SABRINA MARTIN. I support proposed bill BDR 17, Return to Learn, Return to Play for students, including student athletes who have experienced concussions or traumatic brain injuries. My daughter Rebecca received a traumatic brain injury when she was 11 years old. We were sent home with no resource or idea what returning back to school environment entailed. She was a straight A student prior to her injury. We had no idea what an IEP was. She had an individual education plan for the next 6 years throughout middle school and high school. Unfortunately, her IEP did only so much. Recovery from a concussion or a TBI varies between each individual depending on the severity of the concussion or TBI. Rebecca didn't return to school until 1 year after her head injury. She looked normal on the outside, but she suffered from short-term memory loss, difficulty focusing and concentrating, problems with organization, multitasking, and fatigue. She had her good days and bad days in school that was determined by many variables, including the amount of sleep she got, brain fatigue, stress, in addition to the amount of homework she was given and required to finish. Her teacher didn't realize that she needed special accommodations by just looking at her. Her IEP accommodations included increased time on assignments and tests, notes taken for her, communication and study skill classes, shortened assignments, and reminders to turn in work. However, no one checked on her physically and mental well-being when she returned to middle school or even the start of high school. Some teachers refused to cooperate with their IEP accommodations. People with concussions and/or brain injury may not look different than any other student, but they are. There is an injury to their brain that may take days, weeks, months, or even years to get better. Teachers should be encouraged to educate themselves. Teachers are there to ensure that students succeed in their learning and to teach in a way that someone with a concussion or a brain injury can learn. Rebecca refused to give up, and my husband and I insisted that her middle school and high school complied with an IEP. I believe in supporting this proposed bill, BDR 17, as it will go a step further in helping all those students who have suffered a concussion or a traumatic brain injury, and to ensure a safe, successful return back to school and sports. Thank you for your time.
I would now like to introduce my second witness. They'll be answering questions together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Youth Legislative Committee, for allowing me to speak to you today. Hi, my name is Rebecca Martin. I support proposed bill BDR 17 for student athletes who have experienced concussions or traumatic brain injuries, TBIs. I have a traumatic brain injury and had an individual education plan, IEP, for 6 years when I was in school. I took a year off from school in 6th grade after my TBI. When I went back to school, I had a difficult time having my teachers follow my IEP since I didn't look like I was disabled. My brain injury symptoms that would vary day to day included short-term memory loss, issues with focusing and concentrating, organizational difficulties, and fatigue. Some teachers wanted to do their own accommodations and reduce the number of accommodations or just not follow them at all, regardless that my neuropsychologist wrote that it needs to be followed. My accommodations included increased time on assignments and tests, notes taken for me, communications or study skills classes, shortened assignments, and reminders to turn in work. At times I would get frustrated, and it was even suggested that I should graduate with a modified diploma to make it easier on me, when in fact it was so it would be easier on the teachers. Concussions and TBI survivors shouldn't have to worry about keeping up with other students when we are physically and mentally trying to keep up with life. A brain injury can have us overstimulated in everyday activities. Brain fatigue is very common. Parents and school administration should be working together to make sure we are kept safe from further injuries. The schools should regard the well-being of each student as their top priorities, even if that means to lighten students' workload and to provide accommodations that work for the students to succeed in school. I personally struggled on a day-to-day basis, and it sometimes felt like an uphill battle with teachers not believing I had a brain injury. I was able to graduate with a regular diploma through determination and persistence, but not without frustration. It was the assistance of the few teachers who supported me and my IEP accommodations and my communication or study skills class teachers. Again, I believe that this proposed bill, BDR 17, would help students like me to succeed on their continued education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any youth legislators with questions at this time, please make yourself verbally known or raise your hand.
Chair Dimison, this is Youth Legislator Moss. I have a question.
Right. From the north, recognize Youth Legislator Moss, and from the south, I see Youth Legislator Boulware and Youth Legislator Bentham.
If it's not too late, this is Youth Legislator Krieger, and I also have a question.
Yes, you'll be noted as well. Youth Legislator Boulware, you may proceed.
Youth Legislator Bulwer for the record. So I had a question. Would this bill mandate these teachers to take education courses or learn a certain protocol in the case of a TBI?
Youth Legislator Thornton for the record. This bill may potentially mandate teachers to be able to have and take education courses that would potentially be on professional development days when there is more time. The courses will be free. However, I would like to make sure that these are questions that my witnesses with personal statements are able to answer. Thank you.
Youth Legislator Bentham.
Ms. Martin, I want to express my sympathy towards your situation, and if this bill had been passed, how would it have changed your story?
For the record, it's Sabrina Martin. As a parent, we went through so many battles for teachers to realize that she had these issues, especially the short-term memory issues. She looked fine, she acted fine, and when she needed more time for testing, it was always just this battle. We had to actually get an advocate to meet with all the teachers and the administrators to follow her IEP. Many teachers were clueless of what a concussion can do, a minor concussion, to a major traumatic brain injury. So I think it would have made our lives stress-free, and what it put on to my daughter Rebecca, and the frustration where she wanted to give up and not continue, it was very defeating for her versus, I wish there was more support and more education for these teachers. So that's what we went through.
Right. Youth Legislator Krieger.
Unfortunately, my question was just answered, but I did want to thank both speakers for their testimony.
Right. Youth Legislator Moss.
Thank you, Chair Dimison. Youth Legislator Moss, for the record, I first want to say that I empathize with your struggles. I had a sibling growing up who struggled with concussions because he was an athlete. So I understand your struggles, and although they're not the same, we still need to be doing more. My question is, since you guys have had to actually experience this and had to be in this system trying to get the help, what would you as a community member want to see return to learn policies look like if they were implemented?
Sorry, this is Sabrina Martin for the record. I wasn't really prepared to answer questions. Can you repeat that question one more time?
My question was, since you're a member of the community, this would actually affect you. What would you personally want to see return to learn policies look like? Like what accommodations, like that kind of stuff?
I personally would like more educational courses for teachers. I would like more accountability for, especially like for our youths with concussions, to not, brain injuries is an invisible injury. And someone may look fine, and to assume to be able to go back to play, I would want a more stringent set of rules before they can potentially go back and injure themselves. My daughter was a different situation. I just think the educational portion for our experience and teachers are, you know, you'd think you'd go into teaching because you want to succeed in making an impact in each person's life, each child's life. And we were set up to fail constantly. I would like to see something different. And if that means educating yourself on what a concussion entails or what a TBI is, that's what I would propose. Even if it's free courses online, that doesn't cost money. But the more education we have and the more understanding, I think it would have been, there were those compassionate teachers that got it, and some of them was because of personal experience. They knew someone, a relative or a friend that went through the same, but those that are clueless were the ones that we had to battle. So thank you.
Thank you. Seeing that no other youth legislators have any questions at this time, Ms. Martin and Rebecca Martin, you're both excused from the witness table. Youth Legislator Thornton, you may proceed with your next witness.
Oh, I'm not going to say your name. I'm just going to, okay. Chair, I have 3 witnesses up. They'll be doing their witness testimony one by one. They won't be answering questions together. I just wanted to have all 3 of them up at the same time. Thank you.
For the record, Frank Sakalarios, Frank, last name Sakelarios. Nevada Youth Legislators, I'm here today to offer my support on behalf of BDR 17. In my experience as an athletic trainer in this state since 1994, I have witnessed and been a part of concussion protocols from the time when I first started as an athletic trainer. When an athlete was injured on the field of play, most often they were returned to the field to play the same day, all the way up to and assisting in the passage of our concussion bill as it currently stands with its return to play guidelines for athletes, and now this natural progression to return to learn guidelines. As both an athletic trainer and teacher, I have seen the effects on my students' grades and performance in the classroom after a head injury. I have instructed students and their parents that sending their child back to school before their brain is healed is a detriment to their learning and healing. Like most things that are new, this was met with much resistance from parents as well as their students. As their child's grades continued to decrease and their child's healing was slowed, both the student and parents would finally agree that taking time away from class was in the best long-term interest for their child. I have oftentimes allowed students to make up work or do less work while they were in the state of healing. When I was working as an athletic trainer, I was often met with resistance also from teachers as well that believed that since the student was in school, they looked normal, they looked fine, they were fine, and did not realize that the student's brain was not yet ready for the schoolwork they were expected to be doing and to make up. Also in my experience, to share some personal experience, 5 years ago I suffered my own traumatic brain injury, stroke. Up until that point, with what happened with my brain injury, I had short-term memory loss, the inability to concentrate, the inability to remember where I had gone, what I had done, who I had talked to. It took me many months, years still, of therapy to be able to return to the classroom as a teacher. I still have to learn to do many things. I still have to write down students' names that I used to remember. I have to write down every day what I did in the class. I have to write down every day from class to class what I did, what I taught, what questions were asked. Having this traumatic brain injury gave me a whole new understanding of what my athletes were going through. Because I couldn't see it, I didn't understand, I hadn't experienced it, I didn't know what it was. After going through that experience, I will tell you that I wholeheartedly believe that a return to learn policy would be beneficial to each and every student, regardless of if they're an athlete or just a regular student that had some mishap at home, on vacation, wherever that may be. Much like the current return to play policy for athletes, there needs to be a return to learn policy. We have to remember that it's our job as teachers, citizens of the state, to protect each and every student in this state, not just our athletes. Also, as a teacher, I would like to say, will this add an extra duty to what I already do? Absolutely it will. Is it worth it to me for the long-term health, wellness, and healing of our children to add this extra work? Absolutely it is. We have to remember that as educators, parents, people, it is our job to not only educate our students, but advocate for what is right and best for them and their future. And I feel that this is what the Return to Learn policy will do for our students in the state of Nevada. Thank you. Sorry, I'm ready for questions. That's that part that I forget sometimes.
This is Youth Legislator Krieger. Oh, I'm so sorry. Were we not supposed to? Sorry, I do have a question when it's the time to ask.
No, you're fine. It's totally fine, Youth Legislator Krieger. Any youth legislators with questions at this time, please make yourself verbally known or raise your hand.
I also have a question, Chair Dimison, Youth Legislator Greenstein.
Okay, from the south, I have Youth Legislator Bentham, and from the north, I have Youth Legislators Greenstein and Krieger. I would just like to note that every youth legislator who can ask a question during Youth Legislator Thornton's witness testimony has asked a question, and we're making our second round of questions, so please be sure to include your voice. Okay. Are all three of the witnesses at the witness table right now athletic trainers?
For the record, Frank Sacalares. No, two are athletic trainers, one is a doctor.
Okay.
Youth Legislator Thornton, for the record, Frank Sacalarios is the one taking questions right now. Is there another question for why they're all athletic trainers? Or
That was us. We were trying to make the time go quicker. We were afraid that some of the questions would be answered by the next testifier. So we were
Understandable.
thinking maybe they could each go boom, 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 and then do the questions.
That's fair. Yep.
Okay.
I think that'll work. Okay.
So, okay. Youth Legislator Greenstein, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the really powerful testimony. I was wondering in your experience in teaching, how often in your classes you have students who've suffered traumatic brain injuries, and then what have you found works best and is most effective for ensuring they have a positive experience in a learning environment?
For the record, Frank Sacalarios, thank you for the question. In my experience as an athletic trainer and teacher, I've had numerous students that have been athletes that have ended up in my classroom or that were my students that had traumatic brain injuries, concussions. What I've done is advocated with their parents to make sure they stayed home. They got the rest they needed. They took their time for their brain to heal. And then did what we could within our school system and within our education system to provide them the time they needed to make their grades up. Also with that, to provide them time to get out of the classroom as needed in order to go to a safe space, a dark space, a classroom, to be able to rest and let their brain calm down some before they were back in a classroom.
Okay. So Just for a point of order, we will be moving on to the next two witnesses, and then we'll address questions all at once, seeing that I believe the testimony was meant to come all together. So I apologize for that, Youth Legislator Thornton. So if the next witness would like to proceed.
This is Dr. Murray for the record. I wanted to provide a few comments about BDR 17. First and foremost, our lab serves most of northern Nevada and the surrounding areas now, and we're actually starting to help folks in southern Idaho and also northeast and some of the eastern areas of California as well. Our facility provides reliable and valid testing, baseline testing, and post-injury screening. The elements that are described in BDR 17 are taken specifically from the research. They are taken specifically from other states that are involved in these processes and already have these written into legislation. And as a concussion researcher, and I would say I'm arguably one of the foremost in the state of Nevada and also on the West Coast, I help to review, edit, and provide elements of feedback for BDR 17. So you can be rest assured that the elements included in it are grounded in science and research. Our facility sees a whole deal of concussions, and just to give some context, I know there's a great deal of concussions that occur in different areas, but since August alone, we've seen, helped manage, and worked with 126 youth athletes since August. That's a lot. To a point where we're almost to 10 to 12 new patients a week, trying to get them back to the classroom, trying to get them back to the field safely and effectively. The majority of our patients this year alone, I would say 75%, needed some sort of an accommodation in the classroom. Now, this varies, and it can be as much as, listen, you can't go to school for a certain amount of days because your symptoms are so severe, and reading, writing, as much as even looking up and down at someone lecturing or walking around the classroom provokes symptoms. We need to stave those off and provide individualized accommodations. This does provide a bit of a burden on the educator, but as an educator myself, and having taught in higher education for over 12 years in different capacities, we recognize that, and the NIAA, as myself as a representative, and also a representative for the University of Nevada, Reno, wants to come alongside these school districts, wants to come alongside these health practitioners and these other folks and give them materials that they need in order to implement return to play and return to learn effectively. Now, what that means is that we're able to provide very effective, almost generic return to learn, here's what to expect. Instead of having each educator go through individualized training or the CDC heads up training or these different elements, which a lot of us have done training, you usually just listen to it and you don't really learn as much. So we're here to help with that process, and we want to help with it. We wouldn't put this forward or support it without that element already in place, and that's something that the NIAA has already discussed about what happens in Mineral County if this goes forward. How do we help the school district there? How do we help the providers? How do we help everybody involved in the process? And rest assured, we already have majority of those documents ready to go, ready to be given. And I personally am willing to be on the phone, on Zoom, some travel. I have 4 little kids, so it's a little challenging. Help. Our job is to help. And as an educator, as a father, it's vital to help people. And if we don't help our youth now in this circumstance with being able to get them back to the classroom in an effective manner, you're going to delay graduations, you're going to delay all sorts of aspects, and also possibility of getting into college. So I think it's important that we implement this, and I wholeheartedly support BDR 17 and feel that it is really important for us to take this forward.
First of all, I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Adam Hunsaker, Adamhunsaker. I'm the head athletic trainer at Carson High School. I'm also a science teacher there. And I'm here in support
of Youth Legislator Thornton's BDR 17. To kind of add to some of the comments that have already been said today, as a practicing athletic trainer, I deal with concussions on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. So far this fall season at Carson High School, we've had 12 concussions across all sports, the majority of those being the regular suspects, football, cheer, girls soccer. But I'm also here to tell you that in my experience meeting Youth Legislator Thornton and hearing her story, and also as I've transitioned from being solely an athletic trainer to also being a science teacher and in the classroom and seeing the general student population, I have become aware that this is an issue that affects not just student athletes, but all students. Concussions happen outside of NAAA sports. They happen outside of sports in general, car accidents, accidents at home, all of those things. And as has already been stated, it can be an invisible injury. It can be something that we don't see, we don't understand. And what is needed is more education backed by policy to protect these students. I'd like to bring up Youth Legislature Thornton's first witnesses in that experience. That injury happened, I'm guessing, she said she was 11 years old, so I'm guessing it was 5th grade. This is a K through 12 problem. We're talking about high school athletes. We're talking about the NIAA. But what this being put into law would do would also provide resources and protection from K to 12. What happens to the kid that's playing AYSO soccer and gets hit in the head and their parents don't know what to do? What happens to the 6th grader that's in a car accident with her mom driving to the grocery store on a Saturday? Where's the resources for them? They need those protections, those resources just as much as the athletes do. And the way it's written now, all of the focus for concussions goes to athletes. The law is written about removing athletes from sports and not allowing them to return to sport until they meet certain criteria. And that's all well and good and can be improved, but the big missing piece is, what about those students that aren't in the NIAA, that aren't playing varsity football or basketball or soccer, that are just living their lives and have a traumatic brain injury happen? Those students are being lost. And what a return to learn plan would do is not only be a further protection for our athletes that need to be treated as students first before athletes and make sure their academic needs are met before their athletic needs. And that's a switch that I've had to make as an athletic trainer. I've been hyper-focused on the let's get this kid back onto the field. We've got to win some football games. As I've transitioned also into being a classroom teacher, I've also learned, no, we need to pump the brakes on that first. It's more important to make sure that they're ready to be successful in the classroom than it is for them to get back on the athletic field. So this not only provides protections for them, but it also provides protections to the general student body, to all of those students that may have a traumatic brain injury. I'd like to share one last story. We've talked about IEPs a little bit. IEPs take a long time, and for concussions are probably not the appropriate course of action. There are situations like the one we heard where that has long-lasting effects, and that absolutely needed an IEP, and I'm glad they were able to take the steps to get that. But for the vast majority of these students, a return to learn policy that provided guidelines for the accommodations that they needed that could be instituted in the short term is really what is needed here. Because as a father of a son who is on the autism spectrum, I can tell you it takes a long time to go through the process of getting on a formal IEP. And for students that are suffering from traumatic brain injuries, a lot of the time, by the time we get through that process, they may not need those accommodations anymore, or if they do still need those accommodations, the time they have lost is going to be detrimental to their success as a student. So in conclusion, I would like to throw my full support behind BDR 17.
Any youth legislators with questions at this time, please make yourself verbally known or raise your hand.
This is Youth Legislator Krieger, and I have a question.
This is Youth Legislator Dylan Moss, and I also have a question.
All right. From the north, I have Youth Legislator Moss and Krieger, and from the south, I have Youth Legislator Rogus and Bentham. We will go to Youth Legislator Bentham.
Mr. Sacolarius, with your knowledge and what you've seen, do you think the stigma of the teachers and that the student is in school, so they're fine, would be changed with the suggested accommodations of more teachings and trainings?
For the record, Frank Sacolarius. Yes, I actually do think that the stigma would be changed with more education and more trainings that the teachers receive. I think, like with most things in education, it starts off slow, but as we learn more and are educated more, that those stigmas go away. And again, we come back to, we have to understand we as teachers are all here for the betterment of our students. Thank you.
Youth Legislator Rogus.
Based on what I've heard today, I'm now considering how devastating concussions are. My brother had a concussion a couple months ago, and my parents, they didn't think anything of it, but now I'm starting to realize like there's some spillover, but that's besides the point. What if someone lies that they got a concussion?
As the designer for a lot of these tests that we use across the nation and helping with different cases for management, it's really hard to lie on these exams. They are very telling. Now you can sandbag them, but most of them are research driven to prevent some of that. It's also important, that's why we have a clinical management team, and it's well multifaceted and robust to help be able to do the assessment. And that's what BDR 17 actually instills. It says, hey, listen, let's do the right tests that are reliable and valid, that can screen for these and create the appropriate diagnosis for concussion.
Youth Legislator Moss.
Thank you, Chair Dimison. My question is for Dr. Murray. Is that correct? Thank you. I commend you on your willingness to help in getting this implemented and the work you're willing to put towards this. My question for you is, how long do you think implementation of this bill would take if it were to be passed?
Dr. Murray, for the record, great question. I'm unfamiliar with the legislative process personally, so I do not know on the political side how that's going to occur and how fast that would happen. And let me rephrase that. I am involved in that. I've been involved in it multiple states. I have no idea how the state of Nevada and how quickly that would happen. Filtering through the school districts, it's, I would imagine we would all become very accustomed within about 6 months to a year and really work out the kinks. And that's with a good team across the board. It could be faster, it could be slower. I came on about 5 years ago and helped to take over all of Washoe County School District's management policies. We were able to retrain, implement that, get it done less than 2 months. Majority of our athletic trainers were on board, testing the right way, doing the testing procedures. And I would say growing pains about 3 months for us to get everybody on board and moving in the right direction.
Youth Legislator Krieger.
Youth Legislator Krieger for the record, and my question is for any of the three speakers who we just heard testify. I wanted to start by saying how inspirational it is to hear how committed all of you are to the well-being of the students around you, so thank you for your dedication. And my question is, how many people do you think will be positively impacted by this bill, and what might be some of the consequences, especially long-term for their lives, if the proposal is not moved forward?
Adam Hunsaker for the record. I'd like to answer that question by saying, kind of going back to some of the things I said in my testimony, is by passing this, I think there's an opportunity to provide training for teachers from K to 12. And the examples we've heard of from Youth Legislature Thornton, and then also her first witnesses, were students that suffered traumatic brain injuries, and because of the dedication of their particular family situations, they had parents that knew who to ask the right questions to go and fight for them to get those resources. There are countless numbers of student athletes, students in general, that suffer from concussions that don't come from families that have those resources, or come from families that have parents that just don't know where to go to get those resources. If this were passed into law and we had return to learn programs across the board at schools, that would be a resource for them. A teacher might recognize, hey, Timmy said he got hit in the head at soccer. Maybe send an email to mom and dad, hey, this is something you might want to think about. Maybe they have a concussion. We have this return to learn program. So really the number of kids this could impact is countless. The opportunity is huge to affect a vast number of people if this training and these programs are implemented in the state.
This is Dr. Murray for the record. To answer that on how many people, every single concussion would be affected by this. Every single person who has a concussion that is in our school district involved in that management and that care. Because there is no return to learn right now. So this impacts our 44,000 already. Now this is just at the high school. Think about all the other layers. I mean, these happen. Just yesterday, I had a 12-year-old soccer player who got a concussion. The school district doesn't have anything. Can't go to school, can't take the tests that they need, can't take the standardized testing. So it's going to affect them too. So every single one. Huge impact.
I apologize, but at this time, we have run the 35-minute witness testimony. I am aware that there is one more witness on the docket, but because there is no more time for witness testimony, if the witness would like to come to the stand, identify themselves, and just state their position on BDR 17, that would be allowable, but no witness testimony will be allowed since we have elapsed the 35 minutes of time that was provided. You are excused.
Hello, for the record, my name is Julie Koop, Julie Koop. I'm a Carson teacher, and I support the bill BDR 17.
Thank you. You're excused. Youth Legislator Thornton, you will now have 5 minutes to wrap up your entire presentation.
Thank you, Chair Denimson, and thank you for letting my last witness come up. I appreciate that I have so much support from so many different people, from school districts, from teachers, from athletic trainers, you name it. I'd like to start by reading a couple of the letters that were sent in from people who were not able to attend today. So one is from a health teacher at a high school. She says that she's writing to us today as a teacher who sees health students in her class not functioning as they once did. Through conversation, she learns that they obtain a concussion through various activities, more often than not football. Last year, she had a student with a concussion from swimming and yet another from a fall from a horse. These students struggle to concentrate, read, and complete simple tasks. As a coach, she is very aware of concussion protocol, preseason testing, and return to sport regulations to protect the student athlete. As a teacher, she wishes there were more protocols regarding return to school for the betterment of the student learner. I would like to read a letter from the Head Injury Association of Northern Nevada from the president and vice president. So this is from Allison Hume. She says, I am the mother of a 16-year-old son, Ryan, who suffered a traumatic brain injury at Lake Tahoe in 1998. Our son was hospitalized for 361 days in an acute brain injury rehab hospital. She cannot explain the devastation of our family suffered during that time, but Ryan fought with everything he had to survive while he laid comatose for 4 months. And then the real work began. Sadly, he was not able to return to high school, and literally, there was a ripple effect in the community because of his accident with his peers and beyond. They were in Reno when they were first introduced to the Head Injury Association in Northern Nevada, and they've been involved for years. Currently, her husband and her are the vice president of the organization, serving approximately 100 members. Hyan's mission is the voice and the advocacy for brain injury survivors, their families, and the caregivers in the greater Northern Nevada. Their mission is to help support, put their lives back together, piece by piece, through support, empowerment, resources, public awareness, education, social events, and youth prevention programs. Hyan supports BDR 17. The last one I'd like to read to you is from the Carson City School District. It says, distinguished legislators, this is Andrew Fueling, the superintendent. I'd like to thank you for your commitment to your communities in Nevada. I'm writing this to support BDR 17. The state has clearly shown support and given guidance for school districts on dealing with concussions and TBIs as it relates to returning to play in athletics. He believes this is a natural progression and wider recognition of additional awareness for all students returning to this academic area. And I'd like to say that Washoe County also supports my bill, and I am in constant communications with Clark County. I'd like to thank you all for hearing all of my testimony today, and I'd like to thank you all for taking your time to be able to vote on this bill. BDR 17 doesn't just help me, doesn't just help 100 youth, it helps every single youth in our state of Nevada. So thank you for considering this BDR.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Thornton. As of now, I was just made aware that we had another witness on. He lowered his hand. Okay. Never mind. Then we should be good. I would like to thank both youth legislators, Thornton and Craver, for their extensive and well thought out presentations during this process. It's very obvious that we have many issues, that young people in the state of Nevada have many issues that they're facing today. And I'm really just honored and taken aback from how innovative and caring my colleagues are. So at the end of the day, we do have to select one piece of legislation to advance, which will be agenda item number 6. So before we vote and move on to the selection of the BDR that we will present to the 2023 Nevada Legislature, does anyone have any remaining, or do any fellow youth legislators have any remaining comments or questions regarding either of the proposals? Please raise your hand or make yourself, or verbally identify yourself. Seeing that no youth legislators have additional comments or questions, we will now take a vote on the 2 BDR proposals. When the secretary calls your name, please indicate whether or not you would like to vote for BDR 4 or BDR 17. Please note to reference the BDRs by their number.
Thank you, Chair Dimmonson. Youth Legislator Bentham.
17.
Youth Legislator Boulware.
4.
Youth Legislator Craver.
4.
Youth Legislator Greenstein.
17.
Youth Legislator Keene.
BDR 4.
Youth Legislator Kington.
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Krieger.
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Laura.
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Makababa.
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Moss.
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator August.
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Thornton.
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Thurgood.
BDR 17.
Youth Legislator Walker.
BDR 17.
And Chair Dimison.
BDR 17.
Thank you. The BDR moving forward is BDR 17.
All right. The Nevada Youth Legislature has proudly selected BDR number 17 to advance to the 2023 Nevada Legislature. Thank you everyone for sharing your comments and questions regarding these BDRs. I would like to especially thank all witnesses who took the time to be here today, but also took the time to share their personal stories and experiences with the issues that they face in their respective communities. Your participation was not only important, but was crucial to the selection process and helped guide many youth legislators today to the decision that we eventually made together as a body. I look forward to discussing the proposed language and details of the NYL's 2023 BDR at our January 19, 2023 meeting. In the case the legal division has any questions that need to be answered in the drafting process of the BDR, I am going to designate Youth Legislator Thornton as the contact person to answer those questions. The next order of business is Agenda Item 7, which is a review of upcoming Nevada Youth Legislature activities, meetings, and trainings. Our public testimony plans are due on or before November 19, 2022, which is this Saturday, and our outreach recruitment letters or videos are due on or before December 10, 2022. It is, once again, a good idea to send the activities in before the due date. This will allow you to account for any technical difficulties or concerns. The assignment templates for these activities are in our training binders, and Mrs. Ashdown will also send fillable PDF forms. The election results are not yet final, so we must send our completed public testimony plans only to Senator Wiener and Mrs. Ashdown. We will receive an official list of our district legislators before we need to send our completed outreach recruitment letters or videos to Senator Wiener, our legislators, and Mrs. Ashdown. The NYL gatherings are from 3 to 4:30 p.m. on January 10, 2022 in Carson City and January 12, 2022 in Las Vegas. You will find an invitation to these events in your meeting folders. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 19, 2023. I look forward to seeing all of my fellow youth legislators at that meeting to help curate the advancement of BDR number 17. Moving on to agenda item number 8, it is time for youth legislators' comments, questions, and/or discussion. I will ask Senator Wiener to lead this portion of this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Youth Legislature. What an experience. Thanks to each and every one of you, North and South and rural. Youth Legislator Kington, thank you for joining us via Zoom. For your full participation, for your full consideration, for your thoughtfulness, for the two youth legislators whose bills were discussed today, the extraordinary, the exemplary presentations that they made, as well as the witnesses that they brought to the table. This is a perfect demonstration of what engagement looks like, whether it's through the lawmaking process or civic engagement in another way. So thank you, and for the questions and for the full level of intelligence and head and heart that you invested in this procedure today. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about how things unfolded, a curiosity about what we do going forward from here, even though the chair described it, how this process rolls out from here. Any questions that you might have about the time we've spent together today or anything else you'd like to learn more about? Huh? Upcoming assignments. We have had, even though it was described, it has, we can explain that in greater detail if you'd like. Yes, please.
Yeah, I had a question exactly about that, the testimonial plan before public. I really want to know what exactly do you have to do for that?
So it's interesting, this historically, this is about testimony before a public decision-making body. Historically, and we've had some years behind the program now, this has been kind of a sleeper, an activity that youth legislators really shine through the experience. We're always thrilled to hear what the experience looked like for each youth legislator. So what you will do is determine a public decision-making body. And this would be a body that would actually have posted meetings, and they'd have votes, and they have accountability at a higher level than some of the nonprofits out there that are not considered public bodies. You can look at the agenda in advance for the next meeting. Now, keep in mind when this is all due, but you can look and see there might be an item that they're going to be discussing. So, example, the school board, the county commission, the city council. There are a lot of public bodies out there, and it was interesting during pandemic when youth legislators testified by telephone or by Zoom or whatever, they got very creative. I mean, I think one of them did the library board for the state and had some concerns about some of the way they archive documents. So there are a lot of public bodies out there that are not what you'd normally think about. So first of all, find an entity that you'd be interested in attending their meeting. What you can do is look ahead to see there might be an agenda item on there that really fascinates you where you'd like to have public input on. So if there's something that concerns you at the school board, there might be something on the agenda. Come forward to testify on that particular agenda item. Prepare yourself for that. And if it is something where there are members on this public body that represent the area that you represent in the Nevada Youth Legislature, contact them and let them know you'd like to provide testimony because you serve the same population or overlapping population. And we've had that happen before too. So you might want to alert your school board member or your council or commission member. There are other opportunities if you're not comfortable testifying on a particular subject or issue. Takes a little more work and diligence to find that. We've had great response to youth legislators learning about a particular public body and how maybe your voice as a youth legislator has an impact on the work they do. So maybe it's something dealing, because today we talked a lot about sports injuries, so maybe it's a public body that makes decisions around athletics in schools or something, or in the community, maybe a recreation department or something that has monthly meetings. And so you have the opportunity, if it's not an issue-oriented testimony, to testify in public comment. We heard that today, public comment, and introduce them to the youth legislature and some of the way that as they represent the community, you represent the youth community. So you can use public comment to share whatever you choose, to integrate the youth legislature and the work you do and some of the issues the youth legislature has addressed historically or their concerns about. That's up to you. I'm not going to script it for you today, but there are two opportunities. You can address an issue, or you can address a general public comment statement in a general statement under public comment. No, and again, because we have had, thank you, we've had a lot of questions. We haven't had this concern before, so it's kind of new for us. What we're asking by Saturday is your plan for doing it. You don't have to have done it before Saturday. This is your plan, so you've got a few days to decide which public body do you want to speak before. You don't have to have your testimony to us. It's just the plan, because this will move you forward to actually do it. If we said submit public testimony without a plan, you're going to be 2 days before and wondering, well, now what do I do? This way you have to think about it in advance. It does help prepare you for it as you plan ahead. Does that respond to your question? Thank you. Yes.
So now that we've selected a bill, what are the next steps moving forward? I'm curious.
Thank you. As was referenced a little bit by your chair, now Legal Division, Asher Killian, has been, I can see him from here, is sitting at with the youth legislators in the north. He and his team will now refine the language of what the overall proposal has stated. Will, if needed, work with the sponsor, the youth legislator, work with us for refining language that would actually look like a bill, not just the proposal that you heard. That language will be brought back to the youth legislature in January at the meeting as a bill. It'll look like a bill. And the youth legislators will have this in advance to review, to ensure that you're comfortable, or if you want an amendment or you want something put in, something taken out. This is your opportunity in January to refine the language of what the actual bill will look like as it will be introduced at the legislative session. So right now it's been a proposal and testimony and ideas and extraordinary sharing on both BDRs. The next step is to create a bill, language of a bill proposal, a draft bill. It won't be a final one until you all approve it in January. Then it won't be the BDR anymore as much as the bill itself to be introduced. And legislators go through this too. You're mirroring what legislators experience. Any additional questions? How did it feel today? Everybody asked a question. North, anybody want to share how this experience felt to you? I can't see any hands. I've been seeing hands all day. Where are they now? Anyway, if anyone would like to share, because we've worked with our heads.
I can share
some. We could. Okay, please.
Senator Wiener.
Please.
I just honestly, I want to say thank you to all of you, because over the past year and a half, I haven't felt like my experiences mattered. And I haven't felt like the experiences of other people who have been concussed or have traumatic brain injuries have actually mattered. I almost started crying hearing Becca's testimony, because I know how hard it's been for her. It's how hard it is for her to get up. I don't think any of you could see it, but she was having to tap every single word so she knew exactly what she was reading, because she can't physically do that. For her to be able to do that was absolutely phenomenal. I can't even tell you how amazing that is, that she's able to read from a piece of paper and speak to a group of people with the severity of her injury. So I really want to say thank you to all of you, because it makes me feel like this issue actually matters. So thank you. And then also, I was so nervous, and it's really hard when you have this idea to have to let it go, kind of, it goes from you to then to your witnesses, and then eventually to the entire youth legislature. And I say personally that it's hard to let that go. But I'm also so excited to be able to have input from everybody, and for everybody to be able to do their own research and understand why we chose this bill. So thank you.
And if I may piggyback that, Youth Legislator Craver also had extraordinary passion with her measure. And as I said, and did the research and the homework, and praise to both of you for bringing that extraordinary commitment to an issue that was very personal, whether you've lived it or you've experienced it in other ways. Thank you both for bringing those measures to us. What I said last month, for the 7, I mean for all of the Youth Legislature bill, all 19 that were proposed in the beginning, as we settle into knowing who our legislators are. Someone said, well, it's different this time. I said, it's not any different this time. Every 2 years, we have an election. all 42 assembly members are up for re-election or their first election. So all of the seats are on the ballot. So you don't know the outcome until the election results are posted. For the Senate, it's basically, it'll be 10 one election and then 11 the next election. So roughly half of the Senate is up every 2 years. So all of you have the potential, and I don't know the specifics, to have new legislators. That's why we made that specific caveat about the plan versus the report, because we don't know who all the legislators are. But what I strongly encourage all of you to do is contact your legislators who are in place after all the election shakes out and we know what the final numbers are. Introduce yourselves to these legislators or reintroduce yourself to those who might have been reelected. Please consider having a conversation with them around the possibility of their sponsoring your measure that you proposed before this body as their own bill. We often talk again about the success of the NYL bill, 6 out of 8, which is phenomenal. However, equally phenomenal is the statistic around the bills that youth legislators have asked other legislators, the elected legislators, to introduce. They didn't make it through this process, all to the end, so they ask legislators to carry or sponsor their bills. That is 6 requests and 6 new pieces of legislation. 100% pass rate for those that legislators carried. So you have another opportunity to work with a legislator, either house, build a relationship now. They are in the process of submitting their ideas for bills now. So please, take the initiative and approach, introduce yourself or reintroduce, and invite them to consider introducing your measure as one of their allocated bills. And let us know. Oh, absolutely. Please let us know, because we monitor that as well. Yeah, we have had 1 or 2 in the past, and it was a surprise when the bill, they would carry because they didn't let us know. We found out a little bit later. So, oh, wow, there's another one that becomes law. So please let us know if indeed you're moving through this process. And so any additional questions about the experience today and what it feels like to move a measure forward? And I want to, I don't know if I've shared it before, but I'll share it again because now you've experienced it. And then you'll do the final approval of language at our January meeting. We are the only youth leadership program in the United States that has the capacity and the law behind them through statute to propose a bill that is actually introduced in a legislative session. You have mock this and trial that, and you might make recommendations. I'm not minimizing them, but there are many programs that make recommendations to legislatures for issues and bill ideas that the programs have considered important. I'm not going to minimize how valuable that is. However, this is the only program of its kind in this country, and I have a feeling probably globally, because I know they don't have it in New Zealand or Australia, because I've worked with them over there to bring it to them as well. And that's the Commonwealth, so that's a lot of countries. That in the law, you are allocated a bill. This isn't something that's a whim. Every 2 years, do we think we can get a bill? The law of Nevada provides you with a bill. In statute, it's required that you have a bill. So you have accomplished something extraordinary today to move this forward so that language can be crafted around what you've discussed, and the sponsor of this particular proposal will be working with legal to answer questions and respond to areas that may need more clarity. And of course, Asher Killian is sitting up with us in the north. He's heard everything that's transpired, so he has a lot of information to work with. And most importantly, he knows what the legislative intent behind this is, because you have made it very clear through testimony and questions and answers. So, thank you. I get excited, don't I? Yeah, I'm as thrilled as you are about this process. So thank you for letting me participate in it as well. I enjoy it. I grow through it as you do. Anything else? Anything in the north? If so, please raise your hand. Any additional? I see Youth Legislator Moss turning. Are you ready to ask a question?
Yes.
No?
Well,
Make
I
a
was going
statement
to.
or a comment?
I'll just make a statement real quick if I can, Senator Weiner. It looks like Youth Legislator Thornton and Krieger are pretty entertained by what's about to come. I just want to commend the two youth legislators that presented today. They put in a lot of hard work. On the way here to Carson today, I made the comment to someone I was on the phone with, man, I'm so glad that I can just show up to work and not have to be as stressed as the presenters are. And I just get to participate. And I can't imagine how stressful putting together those presentations were. So I just want to commend them and congratulate them for their good work. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm done, Mr. Chair. Anyone else from the north before we're done? I see Youth Legislator Moss. That's it from the north? Anyone else? I want to give you the opportunity. Okay. Anyone else from the south? Mr. Chair, I'm complete.
Thank you, Senator Weiner. I will now move on to agenda item number 9. So I will be opening the second period of public comment. The same rules mentioned during the first period of public comment apply. Please try to avoid repeating testimony if someone has already made your point. And each person will be asked to limit their testimony to 3 minutes. Is there anyone wishing to testify in Carson City? Seeing that no members of the public wish to testify at this time in Carson City, are there any members of the public that would like to testify here in Las Vegas? Seeing that there are no members of the public that would wish to testify here in Las Vegas, BPS, is there anyone on the line that would wish to make public comment at this time?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Right, thank you. Seeing that there are no members of the public that would wish to make testimony through phone, we'll now move on to business item 10, which is adjournment. The Nevada Youth Legislature is now ready to adjourn. Do any youth legislators have any final thoughts or comments before adjourning? Anyone from the north? Yeah, I'm gonna say that we don't have anyone from the north, but I just guess for me personally, I know we have emphasized this already enough, but today I really was expecting something much different than what I had gone through. I mean, just the stories from both sides, the witnesses from both sides. I felt incredibly moved today, and I found myself having an incredibly hard time making a decision as to which bill I would like to advance. So I'm sure Senator Weiner already emphasized this, but to everyone that proposed pieces of legislation, I'm imploring you, this is not where your fight ends for your issue, and I encourage you to fight for it in whatever manner or way you would like to, whether that be, through organizing students in your community, organizing fellow youth, or even introducing it to your respective legislators in your district. We don't get enough representation out there as young people, so, we get one bill, and it's a lot for us here in the state of Nevada, but I feel like, we are such an honorable body of young people representing our communities. And so, just keep that in mind. Your fight isn't going to end in in this chamber. It's not going to end in this meeting. It's not going to end in this term. These issues that each of you have picked are so very important, and it's absolutely necessary that you bring that fight to wherever you go. So with that in mind, that's going to conclude our business for today. This meeting is now adjourned.